Katherine, I'm so happy that you're here with me today. Thank you for playing with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
I'm excited too. So I live the life of a sloth. Is really that's my right now. It depends. I really go in ebbs and flows with my universe, but I do clearly remember that during the time of pregnancy, how it was stressed that everybody kind of stays active. And right, active is a very subjective term because if you were running marathons before, you can keep that up. But then, of course, if you were in full sloth mode, like I am right now, it's really, maybe this isn't the time to, start running those marathons. So currently you're getting there, girl. You're
Yeah.
36 weeks into your pregnancy. Here you are, and you're still moving and you haven't gone full sloth.
No, I'm still walking every day, trying to be as active as I can, napping too when I can, making the most of it because I've got 6 days to go. But yeah, still okay. Getting there.
So when you were, when you first found out that you were
Mhm.
having your duo, were you
Yes.
um were you actually surprised?
Yes. Yes, I was. This is my second pregnancy. I've already got a little girl, who's 3 and 8 months, who's very active actually. So yeah, this was our second time round, and then me and my husband were very surprised when we went in for the scan, and they said, "Oh, we have another little surprise for you." Um, yeah, I think we said, "Oh my God," a million
Mhm.
times.
So it's just funny because even, families in your situation, so you
Yes,
are a twin,
I am a twin.
your brothers are
Yes,
twins, and so
yes,
yet
older
you
brother
would
twins.
you're still surprised.
Yes, I am. Well, the fact that also I got identical twins, so MCDA, I think that's right. um, they don't run in families, so it's just one of those things. The egg split is just happens to be a chance. But I think my parents are still, especially my mum is still, she still can't believe it. And I can't
Yeah.
either.
It's
Even though I
always
am a twin, it's so different being a twin and then you know being an expectant mum twin. It's so different. Yeah.
I can't even imagine. We are so lucky to have quite a lot of twins that have twins in
Yeah.
Twiniversity. It's a lot of use of the word twin, but it's just funny that if you were a twin, I would feel that I would be less surprised if I had twins, but I
Yeah.
don't think the shock is ever off.
No. I
Oh my
think maybe if
gosh.
we had, maybe if it was first time round,
Yeah,
maybe, especially because we said,
true.
but max, it'd be nice to have one more, and
Yeah,
now it's going to be three. So
there you go.
yeah,
There you
but we're
go.
really happy. So
So, Katherine, when you first found out, were you very active in the beginning too? Or like, how has your, movement slash fitness level
yeah.
changed or evolved during your pregnancy?
So I've always been very active from when I was younger, swimming for Hampshire, going into rowing for 4 years in the gig championships and the Scilliars, and then finding CrossFit, which is actually where I met my husband.
Aw.
I know, it's like a love story. So yeah, I've always been very active, and we actually had the first CrossFit baby actually, which was our little girl Evelyn. So then I continued carrying on CrossFit after my little girl, and was very active up until the pregnancy when I told my coach.
Mhm.
The amazing thing about CrossFit is that our coaches are post natal qualified, and they guide you through your pregnancy, which is amazing.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
it was a really good community to be in. Every session is different, but I could scale everything to my ability and still maintain my fitness and improve my strength to help, my pregnancy
Yeah.
and hopefully recovery afterwards.
Yeah.
Um, when I had my first little girl, Evelyn, I had a really good birth. So I'm really hoping the same this time round.
Mhm.
Both heads are down, so fingers crossed. And it really helped with my recovery first time
Mhm.
round. And I went back pretty quickly afterwards as well. So everything was really good. So they scale you movements
Yeah.
and they really help with every session you go to.
It's so important to find, either exercise classes or personal trainers that can specifically work with expecting families, because you can't do everything. And it's not like, I'm not saying that you can't do everything, but there's going to be certain limitations, and there are things that you don't want to ever endanger yourself. Now, I will go on the record and say we have quite a few like powerlifting moms, and that stresses me out, because I'm always worried that the bar is going to like fall on the babies or whatnot. But if you are a professional, obviously, they know what they're doing, and they're guided by great people, but it's not something, I don't think that people should typically be taking up like powerlifting, once they find out that they are expecting their duo. So
but there's other things you can do as well to, like low impact movement, swimming, walking, squats, brushing your teeth, doing some squats, that really helps. Anything really.
So like, speaking about that, right, if you're like, I don't have time to move, and I'm working a full-time job, I'm raising bonus older children, and it's very complicated. How do we find time? How much time do we really need? Like, if we're really going to say, okay, I'm going to commit to moving more, how much should we be moving? When should we be moving? Are we better off in the morning or evening, or is there not, one particular recipe for anybody?
I think it depends on the individual. I'm very much a morning person. I like to get up. I will make time in the morning. That's when I did my classes, etc. And then I'd go to work, pretty much full time. And then in the evening, I'd be tired. Obviously, being pregnant as well, you are tired. A lot more so than, and especially with twins. But walking, being on conference calls if you can, or if you're on the phone, walking up and down the corridors. I did that quite a lot in my job, so I wasn't sat down all the time. Making that time, setting your alarms if you can, but it's so important. And I did have 2 weeks actually where I was really busy with work, and I struggled to go to my CrossFit classes, and I wasn't walking, and I felt awful. I felt sluggish. I mentally, I wasn't right. I was tired, and what it's like. And then I went back to making the time, and it made such a difference as well, for me mentally, I think.
Absolutely. One of the funniest things is there's like a whole line of TikToks that show people just going outside in a grumpy mood. And it's like, going for a walk for my mental health. It really is all connected. And so if you are experiencing, anxiety and depression or frustration during your pregnancy, how simple is it to literally, I shouldn't say how simple it is. A simple thing that you could do that doesn't cost anything is literally just get up and start moving your body. And those endorphins kind of kick in and help you move along. Now, if you wanted to kind of take something a little bit more seriously, should you? Like, if you're like, okay, now I am home, I am going to scale back on my work, I'm having these babies, I want to make my body my priority. How could somebody start with that if it wasn't their priority before?
I think don't start anything too strenuous that you haven't done before. Like I've done CrossFit now for 4 years, so I could scale back but maintain my fitness doing something I love as well. But I wouldn't start anything new. Don't do it when you just found out you're pregnant. But maybe some Pilates and yoga, and doing some kind of low key, like swimming, like I mentioned before, is really good. I haven't actually done swimming this time round, but I did do first time round a little bit when I was pregnant with my singleton. And I think just low impact, that really helps with your body and your movements, and again mentally as well. So low impact sports is really good to do, that you could start doing. And I think it does help for post recovery as well. I think you wouldn't sign up for a marathon if you haven't done any training. You need to start, you're kind of somewhere, and I think you just wouldn't go into something doing nothing. So do low impact stuff is quite important, I think.
So what is your schedule like? Like now, literally, you're at the end here. You are
Yeah.
at your final stretch. You see the finish line, literally and
Yeah.
figuratively. It's right there. What kind of movements are you doing every day to stay active, even at this late stage of your
Mhm.
pregnancy?
Well, actually, I probably stopped my CrossFit classes at about 33 weeks,
Mhm.
because there was talk of my consultant saying they might induce me at 34,
Yeah.
because one of the twins' growth slightly tailed off.
Okay.
So I did stop, and also that's when I stopped work. But since then, I've maintained walking. I do a
Mhm.
lot of walking every day. I find that helps. So I kind of stopped CrossFit then, but
Okay.
I was doing probably about 3 or 4 days a week up until then. So now I finished work. I'm relaxing a lot. I'm reading your book.
Aw, thank you.
So I'm about a third of the way through. So hopefully I'll finish it before they come. Um, and I'm napping, which is fantastic. I'm like 2 or 3 hours if I can,
Beautiful.
which is great. So I'm taking this time now to really slow down, make the most of some quiet time. Luckily, my daughter's at nursery 3.5 days a week. So
Mhm.
I really get that time to myself, because that is also another really important part. Obviously,
Mhm.
you want your fitness, but you need your downtime and relaxation time. So that's what I'm really doing at the moment. And I think that's really helped me towards the end of my pregnancy as well, because now growth for both twins are doing amazingly, and
Beautiful.
I think it's because I've switched off. And I know you mentioned a type A person, which is
Mhm.
so me. Like I can't switch off, I can't do nothing, but I'm trying really hard. So I think that's something really important that you need to take into consideration as well.
It's excruciatingly difficult if
Hmm.
you are somebody that can't stop moving, and now everyone is telling you, you know, it's you, Catherine, honestly, like this week you have to take it easy, you have
Yeah.
to relax. It's like a
Oh,
punishment. It honestly, it feels like a punishment. It's like, why are you doing this to me? When
yeah.
you know, when you decided to start scaling back,
Hmm.
how was that transition? And did you, you know, since you weren't doing like actual like in like classes or
Yeah.
practices of
Yeah.
specifically of what you were doing, how did you transition so that you don't kind of drop off the face of the earth with your fitness, but still do something every day? Are you only doing little things? Are you like, okay, I'm going to do 30 minutes? Are you setting timers? How are you now, literally at this stage of
Hmm.
the game? What is your day like?
Um, I'm still quite in the morning I might see a friend for some coffee. So I'm quite making the most of the social time as well, which is quite
Good.
nice. And then probably doing a couple of walks a day, 30 minutes, and then and in the morning, and then maybe another 30 minutes in the afternoon if I have time.
Mm-hmm.
If I wake up from a nap and think, actually, I'd like to do another walk, and then putting my feet up in the afternoon, having a nice bath, pampering myself. I think that's really in key. Making the time with my singleton child, which I know,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be such a different life for her next week. So really making the most of that quality time with her as well, which has been lovely. So I have scaled back a lot, um, and just making the most of it really, which is
Now,
really nice.
for your first pregnancy, you were
Hmm.
talking about how, you know, it helps you recover and like by being
Hmm.
fit, like it definitely got you on a better track.
Yeah.
Did you do anything differently with this pregnancy because it's twins versus your singleton?
Do you know what? That's really interesting because I had such a good pregnancy first time round, and I was fit and active. I trained up until I was 39 weeks pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
I had my little girl when she was 2 weeks late, so 42 weeks I had
Oh my
her.
gosh.
I know, oh no. And I was induced. But it was all really good, really good. And then I was back a few weeks after really quickly. So I
Okay.
think I put that down to my fitness, also my walking,
Mm-hmm.
my trying to relaxation and breathing techniques as well. That really helped. And this pregnancy, I have done pretty much the same. I would say exactly the same. I've still carried on my fitness with CrossFit when I'm walking.
Okay.
I've been doing bio oil all over me so I don't have any stretch marks or anything.
Good.
You know?
Amazing. That pine oil is the best.
Oh, so good. So I don't think I've done anything differently, but I didn't want to because I had such a good experience the first time round.
You don't want to rock the boat.
No, and fingers crossed, both heads are down.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for a natural birth again, but obviously we'll have to see what happens. That's out of my hands.
Yeah, unfortunately, as we say, the babies hold all the cards. We always hope for the best, and we expect anything because we never know. They're unpredictable, little teeny tiny babies. Now, I want to talk about these breathing techniques. So you mentioned that you practice your breathing techniques. What does that look like, and how often are you doing that?
Probably a couple times a day. If you've got more time or remember to do it more, then do so. It's little things like when you're boiling the kettle, say, like those little moments in time where you have time to do simple things like your breathing exercises. So, you know, really breathing in for a few seconds, holding it, and then breathing out. Just training your body to relax, and, you know, breathing such a good part of, obviously, when you start your contractions and things like that, you will automatically go into that motion, but just practice that as well. Like when, you know, doing your Kegels, for example, that's another really good one that you can do. Doing your breathing while you're doing your Kegels, maybe once or twice a day. I've got an app for that. A reminder comes on my phone. Do it around that time, maybe. So again, it's all about the preparation. And like I said, like you would not train for a marathon, so this is another way you can train as well your body. So the breathing techniques, and again, like your Kegel exercises as well, you can do that coinciding with each other.
Even like I know that we have some parents that if you're driving at a red light, that could be your reminder of doing some, you know, deep breathing. And honestly, like Katherine, it's so funny how just literally paying attention to your breath could really benefit you. So, you know, like putting aside like all the other fitness things that you may be like, I don't have time for that. We're breathing anyway. Might as well just change it up a little bit and make it a little bit more mindful and using your breath as an experience for relaxation, right? Because it's not, we're not going to a spa every day, and we're not getting a prenatal massage every day. It's just not happening. No. But if we could start, I mean, honestly, like Katherine, my dream would be for all of our pregnant mamas and honestly our papas, if you could start practicing something so simple as that, it is not just good for your physical fitness, because it increases brain activity. There's wonderful things that happen with breath, but the whole relaxing piece could easily translate, like you said, during your delivery. But then once the kids are here and you start feeling overwhelmed, it's a tool in your toolbox that you have used a lot. Instead, so very often, and like, you know, Katherine, what we do here, and we'll get so many mamas that have their 20s and they'll be freaking out like after they're here. And if you start giving yourself strategies now, whether it's physical fitness, breath exercises, taking that time for yourself and getting used to it, you'll transition into twinny life easier, because you'll know how to do these things.
And also you're making time for yourself as well. Like that's really important. And even when they're here, you know, 5-10 minutes a day, you know, try and really, I mean, I haven't had them yet, so I don't know. You know, I might come on in a few months, a couple of years or whatever, and I think, but you know, try and make time for yourself. I think that's really important. And actually that's one thing I never really was good at before. Actually, I do everything for everyone else and not make time for yourself. But I think it's quite key, you know, for us to carry on as mums, you know.
and just people in general, because I always think about, you know, being on an airplane and they're like, you know, put on your mask before assisting others, right? It's so cliche now and it's overused. But the thing is we could say that it's cliche and overused, but it's true. It's literally true. And nobody does it. None of us do it. We are all taking care of the kids and we're taking care of our families. And, you know, I could give you a list of 800 things that I do a day. And yet I would go to sleep exhausted every night. And you're like, I don't even know if I took a minute. And, you know, you get to a point as a new mom, which you've already done the first time around, you get to a point and you say like, this is no longer fun. You know,
No.
this is, I don't even know how people said this was going to be fun, or there's nothing that you could do to prepare me for this. While I will tell you, there is nothing that we could do to prepare you for what's going to happen. But the thing
No.
that you could do is you could prepare yourself for
Yes.
what's going to
Yeah.
happen. Right.
Yeah.
So, like at
Yeah.
Twiniversity, we could give you all the tips in the world, have the best guests on our podcast. But unless you're actually going to start practicing some of the things that everybody brings to the table collectively, it's not going to work. And
Exactly.
the
And there's
breathing is
courses, different
absolutely,
courses
and
you can do.
apps
Like,
too.
yeah,
Catherine, there's 100 million
apps.
apps
Yeah.
on just mindfulness and breathing and
Meditation,
yes,
everything.
and
Yeah.
it's free. It's
Yeah.
literally free.
Yeah.
You just have to figure out, what is my there was a term that another podcast guest used, and it was like emotional currency. I think it was the term that she used, and I had never heard it before. But it's true. Like
Yeah.
you may want to spend something and be like, I'm not paying for a 99-cent app forever. But what are you gaining in your emotional currency?
Yeah.
It's such a fun term. I want to use it every day.
Yeah.
But
I like that.
before you got pregnant, you were already doing your CrossFit, and I love that that's
Yes.
how you met your husband. I think
I
that's so
know.
cool. And then once she was here, and once you were getting back on your feet, how has that affected her? So how has your movement, your breathing, how, besides of course her reaping the benefits of you feeling better about things, do you encourage her to move, and do you encourage her to breathe? Like as a parent now, what strategies have you kind of taught to her specifically to say, okay, take your deep breath or whatever. So as a mom, how are you transferring down to that to the next generation?
She's very active. But she grew up at the gym, at CrossFit. So she's very familiar with what we do and exercise, and she doesn't stop. I don't think she walks anywhere. I think that's just the way she is. But she's very active. She's going to be very sporty. She has legs up to here. She's going to be a lot taller than me. I'm 5'3". She's going to be tall. My husband's 6'2", so she's going to be very sporty, and she does tap and ballet at the weekends. Breathing exercises, I'm not too sure she does that yet, but I have done some yoga with her. There's one on YouTube. I can't think of it. I'll have to send it to you. I can't remember what it's called now. But that was really good. And when I do my stretching as well, she likes to imitate that. So she's seeing how important stretching is as well. But yeah, she's very active. So and she's very competitive, just like me.
Oh, that's so much fun. And so she'll be in track. That'll be good. So we'll look for her in the Olympics. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
That's going to be great. Now it's like all about the Olympics in my house. And
my
daughter loves to mimic all of the ice dancers or ice skating moves just on our floor and some socks. This is what's been happening. Yeah, where we unfortunately have never been the sportiest, but the funny thing is we always knew the importance of movement and just not being stiff. And these kids are sitting at their desks for so long, and it gets so challenging. So
and we all do it. We all do it.
Yeah. And it's hard to find things that your kids would want to do. You got lucky knowing that your daughter saw this around you, but if you think like, okay, I don't have time for this, right? If this is your mindset and you're like, I don't have time for it, just think, are you going to have your kids make time for it?
Yeah.
So then we're saying, and I'm not saying that our kids aren't as important as we are, but we are equally as important. And the things that you do to teach your kids and the things that you do to teach others, we don't apply to ourselves, like we were just saying. So even at 4, though, truthfully, like she's right around the corner, you could start teaching her breathing stuff, and then that's going to help her with her, tests in college. But sometimes, especially when you have twins, you might find that one has an interest in one thing and you kind of try to lump them together and it just doesn't work. So when it comes to movement and stuff, it's important to realize that not everybody's going to have the same skill set. And just because they have the same birthday, even for you, that they're identical, really doesn't mean anything.
No, and I know that from being a twin, So we have similarities and differences. I was probably maybe a bit more sportier than my brother, but yeah, I completely, because I can see that, because you know, like you can sometimes just share the same birthday.
Yep.
I remember you said in another podcast, and that's pretty much it, you know.
Yep.
And they might have so many other differences, so it's important to make sure that you know, look after both of their interests and their differences. So yeah, we shall see. They
You
might be chalk
will
and cheese.
you will be totally fine. I think you have the benefit of being a twin. Like
Yes.
that alone is really going to do great for you,
Yes.
because then
Yeah.
you could always, like, in your well-used toolbox is,
Mhm.
did I like this when I was younger?
Yeah.
Like, did I like when people did that to me, whether it's dressing alike, whether it's,
Yeah.
lumping people skill set in the same thing. It's tough, for us moms, right, that didn't have the benefit of being a twin. It's very
Yeah.
challenging for us to sometimes see that, because we're
Mhm.
so used to having them as a set. Right. So
Yeah.
from pregnancy, they have the same home.
Mhm.
And then you come home and you do things together and you're like, we're taking the same car trips. So
Yeah.
it's tough when they start to get a little bit bigger, like your daughter's age, and see that, holy smoke,
Yes.
now what are we going to do? And there
Yeah.
are plenty of things that your kids could do fitness wise that are not, gender specific.
Yeah.
And one of the craziest things that I don't know if we did it by accident or whatever, but my kids were in Brazilian jiu-jitsu from the age
Oh,
of 5.
wow. That's
And
interesting.
it was very interesting because their schools didn't have sports, because
Yeah.
welcome to New York City. Not every school,
Okay.
has teams of stuff, but
Yeah.
we were fortunate enough to find a place that had kids classes. And I was like, okay, what could I walk to? Right. So like,
Mhm.
where could we go that's going to be easy for us to get to? Because that plays a role if you don't have a car, like some families
Yeah.
like us.
Yeah.
And, what's something that would be both beneficial to both of them? Because
Yeah.
if I went to, basketball, they're not going to both do basketball. And if you do
No.
baseball, not, very rarely will they allow everybody on a team. And so specifically, since I have boy girl twins, we were
Yeah.
like, okay, what could we do that could both benefit them? And let's see. I was very lucky that they both took to it like a fish to water. So my
Wow.
daughter loved it for like the feral end of it. Like she was
Yeah.
just like, bah, like shot out of the cannon. And she would love to like flip the boys over her shoulder at like the age of
Wow.
6. They were
Yeah.
already doing that.
I think my daughter would like that.
Oh, it's a sport that I don't think a lot of people will think immediately kid sport, but it's
Mhm.
true, because even like Muay Thai, which is kickboxing, which you'd be like,
Yeah.
why the heck is my kid going to do kickboxing?
Yeah.
But it's them just kicking a bag. That's
Mhm.
it. Just go. Get
Yeah.
your angries out,
Yeah.
and they are so I think martial arts in general, they're very mindful of like the breathing
Yes. Yeah.
and of the respectfulness of your component.
Mhm.
And you always take that into consideration. And it's a gift that was given to you that, and I'm not saying that it's better than any sports, but you don't really see that in the football and the
No.
baseball. You're not
No, that's
really,
true.
you're not really paying as much respect to your
No.
opponent. It's not a
I'm going to
one-on-one
think
thing.
about that one, you know,
Oh,
because
it's
that's
so
quite
great.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like different things. It's
And it's still,
quirky.
my kids stopped. I don't remember when they stopped, but they went for quite a few years. I believe they both got up to yellow belts. And
Mhm.
still to this day, they could use those techniques. And then,
Yeah.
of course, now that my kids are teenagers, I think as far as like safety goes, and
Yeah, that's really good.
it's another well-used tool in
Yeah.
their toolbox.
Yeah.
Like, God forbid, not saying that you ever want something to happen, but it's
Mm.
a very
Yeah.
practical skill. So it's just interesting that when it comes to fitness, people often think this is the way it needs to be.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm pregnant. I am going to go to a swim class and do a prenatal yoga class. That's
Yeah.
that
There's
may not be
different
right for you,
things. Yeah.
right? That may not be. And then it translates into, if you start accepting that there isn't a normal or a typical,
Mhm.
then it translates into your family. And then when you have your kids, you're
Yeah.
like, no, you don't have to be cookie cutter and you don't have to do what everybody else does.
No.
But sometimes people just get stuck, and they
Yeah.
get stuck in this is what is supposed to happen. There is no
Yeah.
suppose for anybody right now. In my
No.
full sloth mode, this is what is supposed to happen. But I
Yeah.
know you have to move because you get stiff, and especially in the wintertime, and
Yeah.
you're like, I don't want to go out. But there's
Yeah.
so many things that you could do that cost nothing. like you said, the
Exactly.
knee bends during
Yeah.
your toothbrushing
Yeah,
that are so
exactly.
fantastic. Now,
Yeah.
how long do you give yourself a break after the twinnies get here? Like, let's say, knock on wood, we have a full-on
Yeah.
vaginal delivery. Everybody
Yeah.
pops out with 2 sneezes. You're good. That's all it was.
Let's hope.
What is your recovery gonna be like? Like, what's the grace that you give your body?
Um, well, after 8 weeks, obviously vaginal birth, that's um fingers crossed. About after 8 weeks, you can start running again, doing those impact things, doing weights carefully, building up again your strength. But again, like week on week, like a gentle jog. I wouldn't go into anything crazy, because your body took 9 months to grow 1 or 2 beautiful or more
Yes.
babies. And you've got the 4th trimester, so you've got to really take that time to recover. 9 months in, 9 months out. It probably takes about that amount of time for your body to recover, so you need to be gentle with it. You need to appreciate it. Like, I wanted to go back full on last time. I messaged my coach and said, I'm ready to come back. I want to come back. And she said, okay, we'll come in and we can talk, and we need to see what your muscles are like. So she examined my tummy.
Good. Very good.
Exactly. So it's all really careful. But again, with any sport or whatever you're doing, just really be gentle, be mindful about your body and how long it took to create these babies. So it's going to take about the same time to go back to normal, I suppose.
Definitely. It takes a minute. And one thing that I want to say to our listeners, when you heard Katherine say that they checked her tummy, one of the big issues, especially with the multiple birth pregnancy, is something called diastasis, where your abdominal wall is like, we're not going to quite go back to what we were supposed to be. And in the Twiniversity classes that I teach, I always do this like very weird demonstration about how, you have 2 best friends and they live next to each other. And then the babies came and they had to move apart. So as your belly grows, your muscles stretch and they move. And sometimes what happens is they don't want to move back into the same spot. It is not super common, but it's actually not super uncommon. So it's kind of right there in the middle, but you should definitely be examined by your doctor to say, okay, yes, everything looks like it's going back in the right direction. And if it's not, instead of it just being an importance of fitness, it's actually an importance of physical therapy, because there are things that you could do and ways that you could move that could assist it into getting yourself back on track. So everybody is like, oh my gosh, my abs are never coming back. I still look like I'm, 6 months pregnant and the babies are already 6 months. So if you're running into something and you notice that there is some kind of abnormality, always just ask. Right? Just ask, just go for a check, but you should always check with your doctor before you do anything significant, because there's things that they're going to look for that we wouldn't even know. So we might be like, we feel fine. Everything is fine. And then they're like, okay, so they'll ask you a whole bunch of questions, and, you might uncover some stuff that doesn't say that you're not fine, but then you just may need, another week or 2 to heal and get better. So it's so important, if you can, stay moving during your pregnancy and during the first year. The funny part is, Katherine, there's going to be no sitting down. There's not going to be much of sitting down once the 20s are here. And, with your long-legged daughter, you will be running after her. As always.
Which I can't do right now.
It's going to be extra fun once they get here. But I'm so happy that you came in and talked to us today, because when people are, especially that we get to talk to you kind of at like this peak pregnancy.
Yes.
And so often people will be like, this is what I did. I think this is what I did. Was this what I did? That's kind of how it goes when you're on the other side of the fence. But the fact that you're in it right now, 36-1, you're still moving, you're moving differently than you did. Here's your plan for, delivery. Here's your plan for post-delivery. It is so important that you think about that if it's something that's important to you. If this is going to be a priority, whether it's your breathing or your fitness, you could still make it a priority. Just because you're having twins doesn't mean you have to throw everything out the window. You may just have to change it a little bit so that, you could accommodate it
Yeah.
without being too overbearing on yourself. Because that's the other issue, right? Because Katherine, as you know, is a type A person. You
Yes.
could easily go to the bad side of things
Mhm.
and try to do too much too soon or
Yeah.
too much in general. So when you think about it, how do you determine what your balance is?
Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to work on that. I think I need to. And obviously my mum being having two sets of
Mhm.
twins, coming from that side, and I've got a really close friend as well. She's got twin girls who are three. Um, they say accept help,
Yeah.
and all this. If people offer it, accept it, and that's very on me. But I'm changing as a person. I'm adapting. I didn't think I was ever going to have twins. Who thinks that? But you have to change and listen to people's advice.
Mhm.
And after I had my little girl Evelyn, I wanted to get straight back to the gym, but my coach said, let's take it slow.
Yes, it's
and
important.
it and it's learning from
Yes.
people's expertise, and other advice, and just I know that I will go back to normal like I did before. My
Mhm.
swelling will go down. I will wear my wedding rings again.
You
But
will.
you know what? It's time, and I'm going to make the most of the time when they're little, and cherish that, because I know how quickly it goes. So
Yeah.
having one pregnancy, and now this is my second time, I've learned a lot from that, and a lot from my fitness and how to go back to it. And I know, I've signed up for a half marathon at the end of end of this year, um, but I can start doing that, when they're 6 months old. I can
Mhm.
start training for that. But the first few months, I'm just gonna take it in my stride.
Yes. I'm so
Think.
proud of you. I really am. And I'm so proud that you really have a good head on your shoulders and you're being very realistic about
Mhm.
what's going to happen for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love that. And it's really, everybody needs to evaluate what that looks like for them. So,
Mhm.
Katherine, honestly, thank you so much for taking time from your day that, I'm glad you didn't do one deep knee bend while we were on this whole time. I mean, a little disappointing, but I know that you have inspired me to do a little bit, maybe pay a little bit more attention to my breathing, because that's one thing that I could even do between taping podcasts and between
Yeah.
meetings and phone calls. It gets overwhelming, but
Mhm.
I don't have to do 200 sit-ups in between
No,
podcasts. It's starting
put
a
it in your
little.
diary, 5 minutes. Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I'm doing it today, thanks to you, Katherine. Thank you so much for playing with us today.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely, and yeah, I'm looking forward to reading the rest of your book, and I'll
Mm.
keep you posted in the next few weeks.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Katherine, you stay right there. And for the rest of you
Okay.
guys, know that if you need anything, or if you have a question for Katherine and you're like, okay, I have a question about this, I want to talk more about finding my next husband at CrossFit, then you could just email us at community@twiniversity.com. But fear not, because we're going to put all of Katherine's info below in our show notes. So you could go stalk her on social, because it's fun and it's wonderful. And she's one of us. She was one of us, right, as twins. And now she's going to be bonus one of us. So if you need anything from her, feel free to drop her a DM, as well as me. We are just at Twiniversity every single place on this universe. We have no creativity or branding. I don't know. It depends on what you say. I say we have no creativity. So we are just at Twiniversity on every single social platform. And from now and always, know that we will be here for you. I genuinely hope that you enjoyed this episode of our Twiniversity podcast. And if you did not hate it, and you were like, it was okay, don't forget to like and subscribe, because that is the way that, the algorithm gods get us out there into the universe so that we could help even more twin families. So until next time, guys, see you later, alligators, and thanks for listening.